Hello and welcome back to Automation Campaign episode number 16. This is going to be yet again one of those big episodes where I have the whole lineup to do either the new cars or facelifts, but fear not because this will be one of the last ones. The inline 4 cars and the 6-cylinder cars will be separated from now on, so they won't share that many engines as much, meaning I can do them in different stages and not everything will have to be done at once. For starters, I will facelift the G series inline 4 engine, the bigger one, the 16 valve. The smaller one will be kept the same. I don't think it needs any improvements for now. What I'll mostly do on this family of engines is using VVT. So from 125 horsepower we go up to 131, and on the 1.8 from 111 to 117. I've also put in a bit more fuel system quality for good measure in both engines. And now for the big reveal of this, the V6 in cars like the Dolcevita CC 24 will be replaced by a turbo inline 4. Let's see what I can do with this. Now first off, when I turbocharge something, I head onto the exhaust and make it large enough so that it doesn't restrict the engine. And now I've got a bunch of setting up to do. First off, I lower compression. I may need some better internals. Yeah, unfortunately, going for better pistons won't let me rev a lot. I wish they had forged medium pistons, because right now they have forged heavy and forged light and no in between, whereas with the crank and con rods you have light, heavy and normal, but not with this. Weird. I guess I'll just add some quality to not be affected by the power limit. Did you know Turbo, I pull up the turbo grid, and you don't want this in the red zones, especially here, because that gives you stress, and you ideally want it to be in this green patch because that's where your turbocharger is most efficient. And I'm making the fuel mixture a bit richer because that's how turbochargers like it. You are adding more air, you also need to add more fuel. I think 180 horsepower is pretty good for now. And it has a very nice power curve, so we have 170 horsepower all the way from 4200 all the way to redline almost. Now it's time to quickly go through all cars and facelift them. I've done all the boring facelifts, which means if a car had the 1.8 or 2.0 engine, it just got replaced with a newer one. So the Monolita, the Koala, the Lucciola, and the pickup, the U100. And now I'll do what is interesting, which is facelifting the Dolcevita CC series. I've deleted the V6 version since this will be the new base one. I'll try to do some tweaks, especially to improve handling. I'm going with bigger brakes front and rear. I don't know if I should use a more aggressive pad type, maybe yes. While at it, I've also updated the rear look a bit to be more in line with the current Dolcevita lineup. So instead of the lights being squared off, they have this angle here. Also put on some newer, more modern looking rims. Now for what used to be the V6, I'm putting in the turbo engine, 180 horsepower. Wow, fuel economy barely went up. So it would be something like on premium. Wow, that's a lot of top speed. I should go with a limited slip differential to put all that power down from the front wheels. And I think this does need sport tires. What I've done for the turbo version is painted this nice ruby color, of course added turbo badges, some new wheels, made the suspension a bit tighter, and I've also added power steering. I don't know how I could have forgotten that. The Dolce Vita versions of this platform have power steering, and the more expensive Fusco version, so the 1.8 Koala, the 1.5 Koala still remains on manual, because apparently using power steering on that decreases the reliability, decreases the drivability. Now it's time to move on to making new cars. What we need to do is replace the Dolce Vita LP and the Fusca Redeno and the Dolce Vita SP, the sports car. But as you know, these two cars were on the same platform the whole time since the first generation, but now I think it's time to separate them, as their scopes are sort of drifting apart, and if I make both on the same platform, I'll have to make some compromises, and it will increase my prices a lot, and they're sort of holding each other back. This is the best body I could find for the third generation Redeno. It's a bit square at places, but it's pretty period accurate if you want the really bland car that's not that outstanding, because this is just supposed to be your average family car, maybe a bit higher end than the Koala, since guess Mia likes bigger cars. I'll be switching this to front wheel drive while the Dolce Vita LP remains rear wheel drive, but still give it nice double wishbone suspension all around. I'll just use the 2-liter engine for this to set it apart a bit more from the 1.8 Koala. Front wheel drive, nothing fancy, still 5-speed, because economy cars didn't get 6-speed yet at this time. And standard interior all around. Not going to do CT yet, it's too high tech for now. After some designing and more tweaking, I'm left with this, a fairly average looking car. Maybe the front is a bit modern, the back is also kind of average for this time. It was a bit hard to do because it was squared off, whereas the front was nice, round and curvy. I'll show the stats now. And very good desirability in family. I've also made the wagon variant to reach more customers, and last but not least, I have this awesome super turbo. It uses the 2-liter turbo engine from the Dolce Vita CC, the 180 horsepower one, and putting some wheels and the wing really transforms this car. Looks very nice. And this can sell into family sport as well. I don't know if the acceleration is that slow. In terms of engineering, I can get it to, let's say, 32-34 months as the others are. and now I've got to do a bunch of factory setup. With the engineering done and factory setup completed, the Redeno will be made in a medium 2 factory, a brand new factory. For now, I haven't gone bigger because the demand isn't really there. The other factory I've upgraded is the U100 factory from like a medium 2 to a medium 3. And the engine factory, can say right now, it's a bit on the edge, but it will do. I'll sign off these projects separately and then do the 6-cylinder cars because the Redeno breaks away from the LP Dolcevita. Of course, before starting to facelift the 6-cylinder cars, I will facelift the engine, the V6, and it will mostly consist of adding variable valve timing to it. I think I should only add the intake VVT because this might be too advanced for now and I don't want to sacrifice reliability. It does add a nice 15 horsepower. If I go with this, it adds about half of that. And then I can add this later on and say, wow, what an improvement. The bigger 2.8 engine gets 9 horsepower out of this, interesting. And for the sporty 3-liter engine, I think I might just go with double, but for now I'll go single. It's originally 220 horsepower, I'll see how much I can take it up. Wow, this really fills in those torque gaps. For the exhaust, I'll actually go for long headers to get more power, because the next generation SP has to be a bit of a step up. I've kind of always struggled with that car. Performance intake, please. 244 horsepower, that's nice. I mean, this brings me to 250. I can just leave it like this, do a bit of tuning. I think I can throw on quality testing, because the car factories will also have some downtime, and in that time I can upgrade the engine factory, because otherwise you get a bunch of slowdown. Now there's almost no slowdown. I'll have to start with the new generation LP first. I found the body, but it is going to be pretty tough. Now I've got this, oh yeah, this one, this Mercedes-like body. This is what people call it, I think. It's a bit hard to work with on the front and in the back, but it's the only modern-ish body I can have at this time. Yeah, the late 90s, early 2000s have a really big problem with bodies. You just find weird ones. I think I'll still keep corrosion resistant steel because it's more rust proof than normal galvanized steel, and maybe partial aluminium because I've used it on other cars and it makes things nice and light. You can go. Should I go multi-link in the back? Maybe not for now. And the base model will be manual for now. Maybe I can go for automatic, I'm not sure, but if it's a manual it's gonna be a 6-speed. Cut to a bit later and I've got this super desirable car. It's going to sell a lot more than the previous one, so at least 2000 is not optimal, but better than the last one, which barely broke 1,000 sales. This is how I made it look. The front is pretty inoffensive, it looks a bit like a Lexus IS. The rear is its own thing. This body is pretty unique, kind of looks like a Mercedes, as I've said, so it still has that character, but I've tried to make it different. Oh, and for the 2.4 engine, I've put in one exhaust. For the other ones, I have two exhausts. I've also got the wagon version of each one. This is the 2.8 liter. The only difference is having 16-inch rims, an automatic, and of course the bigger engine. And this also has a wagon. But what's interesting is the one with the 3-liter engine, which is also supposed to go in the SP sports car. With this engine, I actually had to go to dual VVT because it wouldn't pass emissions otherwise. So disregard what I've said before, it has to go with dual VVT. And I've also put this spoiler kind of awkward fitting a bit, best I could do, and the slip and some interesting rims. That's got very good stats, I'd say. For the engineering, I'm keeping it at 40 months. In terms of body choice, I'm going with this one. It isn't as modern as these ones, but they are too modern for this time period. I'm going it again with partial aluminium for less weight. Yeah, corrosion resistant steel, so it doesn't rust out. Now I may go for multi-link in the rear, but that adds some engineering time, so I'll see. I'll start out with the 3-liter variant and then downgrade it for the cheaper models. And I'm making the choice to go only for 2 seats because this way it's lighter, and I don't think I'm going to make a GT version with the automatic transmission anymore. That just waters down the whole project. I've also done everything that's needed for this car, the engineering and the design. It does look maybe a bit too modern again, but I think it'll even out because this comes out around in 1997 and you did start to see something more current releasing even back then. In terms of sales, this could be doing very well, much better than what we had before, like 800 sales a month. The other variants I've made are a Targa version, a hardtop convertible, and a smaller engine version with a 2.8, both for cheaper maintenance and easier upfront price. In terms of engineering, again, this takes 40 months, and I'll set up the factories at the end. I've still got one more brand new car using the V6 engine in the works, and that would be a heavier delivery van because the monolith that we have right now is a bit on the medium smaller side, so this will be a heavy delivery. Yeah, I'm using this body. This is more like a commercial van body that you tend to see for bigger loads and so on. I'm going to use a body on frame because that's what these are built like, and it's also less production units. Galvanized steel, longitudinal engine, still not going with transverse yet on this, and solid axle coil front and rear. Very basic car, but it'll be cheap to make. Going in is a 2.4 engine. I think that's the sweet spot. Rear wheel drive, because if you are, let's say, on a slope and all the load is in the rear, you want traction here in the rear. Also putting in 3 seats because big vans like this seem to have more seats in the front. Actually going with a basic interior and basic entertainment rate. In the end, this is it. It's just a van, nothing too special to write home about. Yeah, very basic. I've also made another version with an automatic transmission for those that want it because, you know, it's a heavier vehicle, a bit harder to drive. Wow, and look at that desirability. For the factory of this one, I went with a medium 2 for now. I also upgraded the V6 engine factory to a large 2, and it's going to have some very juicy profit margins. I've also set up the factories for the Dolcevita LP and SP. I can sell them at quite a higher price, closer to their market price for that category, because I actually have some quality. I think I got them right on the 3rd generation finally. Again, not going to take a loan. And before I start, I will dump some more research into fuel system to speedrun unlocking injection, direct injection, because it's going to matter a lot, I think, in terms of emissions. And what else? Some more body. Okay, now let's start it. All I'm gonna do is go with direct injection. Well, barely gain any sort of power, but you know, maybe on bigger engines it will have an effect. Alright, now that all these cars just released, I'll freeze it and let's see the situation. It seems that basically all other cars were in demand, especially the Fuscos. Also the Dolcevitas maybe. Yeah, I couldn't produce them because, well, there was just a huge pile of pre-orders. So I suppose I'll really have to beef up my factories in the next episode. Absolutely everything's in demand. Like, there was this spike. Oh wait, never mind. This spike is because the engine factory stopped. But yeah, given the Lucida, which wasn't even that popular, so this has some stock left. But absolutely everything is selling. We've had this boom in our company, so I should get ready for very big factory upgrades. As usual, at the end of the episode, I'll test drive the cars I've made, starting from the least exciting to the most exciting. So up first, we've got the C200 cargo van. I did do a bit of driving with it before, and the almost 160 horsepower we've got is more than enough. As you see, I can really hit it and it just goes. But it's probably useful to have this much power when you have another 1,000 kilograms in the back. And let's see how it does around this bend. Pretty good if you drive reasonably. I mean, this obviously doesn't like being raced. Like here, if I'm coming in fast, I do lose grip. But obviously you're not going to go like crazy if you're transporting some cargo. Yeah, there's quite a lot of understeers. Oh, crushing the curb. Yeah, probably not the worst thing that's been done to a van like this. Yeah, maybe it's not that brilliant to handle, but that's expected of something big like this. Going one step up, this is the brand new Redeno, the Super Turbo variant. I'm using this instead of the base model to really see how this platform performs at the edge. So far, a bit understeer to be expected because it's front wheel drive. Let's see how it does on this twisty road. I mean, cornering is alright, not that good, but also not bad. but the turbo offers some really nice acceleration. And this does feel like something made in the 90s, because you do get that feeling, like for example when you drive other 90s cars in beamng. This feels like those. Yeah, I think what's holding it back again is grip, but quite a lot. Maybe the automation tires have less grip. What could I know? The best test drive for the new LP series will probably be a nice countryside cruise and twisty roads to see if the bigger size and weight impacts how easy it is to drive, because we don't want this to be a boat. It's not quite the biggest car in the lineup. So far understeer isn't a problem because it's not front wheel drive. It grips decently, probably just like the last one. Yeah, but I do think it's easier to drive than the old LP series. This is a lot more refined. This is just nicely neutral all around. And the older cars, you had the fine moments of understeer and oversteer, but this just goes. And this can cruise at really low RPM, maybe not here because it's downhill. But uphill like this, yeah, it can. Yep, the speed climbs up. The engine barely revs. It makes it really comfortable. After this turn, let's put it into sport and give it a bit of throttle to see how it goes, because it is supposed to have a tiny bit of sportiness. Yeah, not bad, not bad. Yeah, you won't be disappointed if you want something a bit sporty but still want comfort and size. Now it's time for the main event, the Dolcevita SP30. Getting off the line pretty quick thanks to the low weight. 250 horsepower is still very respectable in the 90s for a sports car, but being so lightweight really helps out. And it doesn't seem to run out. Like, this car can really handle on the track. That's the real test, because automation cars do well on roads if you know what you're doing, but getting them to be nice on the track is harder because they sometimes are very understeer, sometimes they snap oversteer. Not really here. Traction control really helps under throttle. Even if I made the tires pretty wide, they still spin, so I just think that automation tires have less grip than beamng tires. Like, yeah, here I had the moment. I also can't go very fast in this corner. It's another tricky one, kind of off camber, but I managed well. Not sure if that was quite the limit of the car, because it was very comfortable taking that. I bet we can hit 200 Ks down here. Not quite, 190. And drifting sideways, yeah, I broke too late, that was on me. Anyways, as I spawn again a bit here, see you in the next episode, where I'm going to end up really expanding our factories, because we've had such an economic boom in the company.